Okay, so this is number 4. For those of you who've seen the first 3, you might notice I changed the map a little bit. I made it into 6 now because my original 5 was just going to be 3 hours long with all the camps in that area. So tonight we're going to do Minnesota, Iowa, Missouri, Wisconsin, Illinois, Michigan, Indiana, Ohio, and Kentucky. So Minnesota, Indian Head Council, I've got just 2. I've got the Fred C. Anderson Scout Camp and Tomahawk Scout Reservation. I used to collect camp patches, and I had a lot of them from Tomahawk. They make some pretty patches. And then Many Point Scout Camp in Viking Council. The duck is their camp logo. On to Iowa, Hawkeye Area Council and the Howard H. Cherry Scout Reservation. They're all kind of the same. They got the topo look, except this one here. This is numbered, number 37, and it actually came with another patch as well. And it's a good looking patch. And then still in Iowa, Iowa Council. So this is Camp Loud Thunder. And you can see the neckerchief here with the LT. And this one has the camp name. This one was issued at the same time, 2020, COVID can't stop us. And then this one here was for, looks like their longtime camp ranger. And they have a camping heritage series, and I only have 2 of them, but I know there's more. And the 2 I have are Manser Scout Camp and Minneota Scout Camp, but I think there's at least 2 or 3 more. Then Mid-Iowa Council, Camp Matigua. And then I like this one. I like the name. I think this is where Chris Kringle goes to camp. Camp CS Claus. And I was looking at the, somebody posted on Patchell site for all the conclaves this year, and they're hosting a conclave in 2023. And Winnebago Council, we have a couple of them from Winnebago Scout Reservation. Looks like this little guy is probably their local character. And then Camp Ingowanis. So Heart of America. This logo here is for Camp Theodore Nash, and this one over here is for Atro Bartle Scout Reservation. Assuming this is an Order of the Arrow. I don't know what this is. I've tried to do some research on that council, but I haven't been able to find this logo anywhere on their campsite. So if anybody knows, my guess is it's another camp or maybe a legacy camp, but at this point I don't have any information. So Ozark Trails Council, Camp Arrowhead. Looks like they had an ice storm in 2007. That's a pretty cool patch. And this was their logo here. Doesn't have the council or the camp name, but it has the logo. Some of my favorite camp CSPs come from Ozark Trails. And I'll get to those in just the next slide here. These just came out, I think last year, the year before, 2021. Frank Childress Scout Reservation, and I think they're kind of a historical set because they mention Mocan Council as well. But these are the ones I like. The Camp Swampy. It probably isn't a Camp Swampy, but that's okay. I like it anyway. The difference between these 2, I don't know what the significance of it is this little red line on top of the hats. There's also a black border without the red lines, and I have not been able to secure that one yet, and I've been looking for it for a while, so if anybody has one, but those are cool. Beetle Bailey, gotta love them. All right, Wisconsin, Bay Lakes Council. They put out a series a couple years ago with Bear Paw, Camp Hiawatha, Camp Roquillo, and Gardner Dam. And then in 2017, they also put out their Jamboree set featured all their camps. And this is the Gardner Dam one as well. And then these are all from the 2017 Jamboree, Bear Paw, Camp Hiawatha, Camp Roquillo, and Twin Lakes Weeblos Camp. And it's funny, I looked at this one and I thought it was Camp Jack's, but I looked it up and it's Jack's Camp. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Chippewa Valley, the L.E. Phillips Cub World, or Camp Phillips, depending on who's making the patch, I guess. These are pretty common, they're staff patches, so you might think they're they're relatively rare, but these things are everywhere. If you want one of these, they're not hard to get. Ed Bryant Scott Reservation, Camp Castle Rock. See those around all the time. The Gateway area puts out a lot of patches, not just for camp, for changes in wind direction and stuff like that. So it's Camp Decorah, and I guess they have horses there, climbing tower. I actually like this one here. This is pretty cool. It's obviously their Cope patch for 1997. Cope for 98. Actually, this is my favorite Camp Decorah patch right here. And it's hard to see here, but this is Camp Decorah camper ship. There's a Glacier's Edge. I really like this patch. I've had it for quite a while. This is the first one I ever got from Glacier's Edge. But then they went this way. I'll be honest, I'm not crazy about this style of patch where they kind of got that satin finish and it's like a photo. I ended up getting into one of those big, massive CSP trades. And the guy who was running it knew I collected camp patches, so he sent me all these. That's where I got all these. And they are camp patches, so I'll keep them. But not my favorite style. Actually, I should have mentioned this is Camp Indian Trails. And this is Ed Bryant Scott Reservation. And then these are just all generic camp staffs from the same council. And then Milwaukee County, Indian Mound. And throughout this presentation, you're going to see a lot of the same names popping up because of mergers. Camps, end up being in another council. There's another Indian Mound, a few pages further on. I've had that one for a long time, and I like that one. So Potawatomi or Powatomi, and I'm not sure, I've always called this Potawatomi, but I was watching the Antiques Roadshow the other day, and this name came up, and it was not pronounced at all the way I pronounce it. So not sure which way to go on that one. But Camp Long Lake, and they put out, very often they put out multiple watercolors for the same year. I don't necessarily always have them all, but as you can see, these years they put out 3 apiece. No shortage of Camp Long Lake. All right, this is one of my favorite patches, this Hand Adventure base. This is from Samoset Council, where camping is king. And my understanding is, and I've heard this from several sources over the years, is this tent is on their regular CSP as well. And my understanding is Walt Disney had designed it back in the day. Whether or not that's true, I don't know, but it's a good story. And their camp is Tasoma. You can see it here in the water as well. But this is I like the color, I like the design, and I like everything about this patch. I really do. Okay, Southeast Wisconsin, Ron S. Lyle Scout Reservation. That's going to pop up again later too. And also Camp Odakota. There it is, Three Harbors. It's still Robert S. Lyle. And there's the other Indian Mound I mentioned. All right, on to Illinois. And Arrowhead Council, Camp Drake. Camp Drake shows up again in Prairie Lands Council a little further on. So this was how it all started for me. Back in the mid to early to mid 2000s, I started acquiring not these Hoovers, but this is also Hoover Scout Reservation, but Owassipee Scout Reservation. They used to put out 2 or 3. Well, this was an anniversary year, so they put out 4, but they used to put out 2, and then they started with 3 every year. And I would call the council, and I ended up hooking up with one of their district execs, and he actually called me every year when the new ones came out. So once I had about 6 or 7 years of these, I really started going after the rest in earnest. And I have 2,100 now, so I guess I got going. These are 99. This one actually isn't scaled down. It's actually much smaller than the others. Not sure why. So anyway, they in 2003, I guess, they started making these Sons of Owassipee, and I thought that might be some kind of an earned shoulder patch. And so I asked the DE that I knew, and he said it's not. You can buy them at the trading post. But what they do is, whenever a troop goes to camp, typically they have their photo taken, and the troop receives the photo, and the scouts can buy a photo. And when they get those photos, this Sons of Owassipee CSP is in there, so indicating that the whole troop are Sons of Owassipee. So that's this one's the same size as this. I just made this one bigger so it was easier to see. So these are the regular, the staff, and Sons of Owassipee for these 2 years. This is an interesting one. So these 2 are the and this one here are the staff, are the 3 that were issued. And I got this one on eBay at some point, and I called that DE and asked him what was the significance of this border, and he said it's a fake. Somebody took the old border off and rebordered it. So this is not an official issue, at least not with this border. Here we go again, another couple of years, 2007, 2008. Some of their patches are pretty cool looking. This is the, for any of you who are familiar with Owassipee, this is the logo for the camp. So here's an interesting, in the past few presentations, I'm always coming up with misspellings. Well, you'd think somebody would know how to spell Chicago. It's a pretty big one. But I guess if you send them out, offshore. So this was misspelled when they got them. They reordered them, and they changed enough so that you'd be able to tell quickly which was which. And I don't have a staff for that year. And by 2012, my DE friend had retired. So it was getting harder and harder to track down all 3. Sometimes I only got 1. Not long after this, a bunch of councils merged into Pathways of Adventure, and we'll have more Owasspies when we get there. So this is Lincoln Trail Council, Camp Taunton. And then Northeast Illinois, Macajuan Scout Reservation. And if any of you are familiar with any of these camps, and I'm butchering the names, I apologize. So now we're on Pathway to Adventure, and more Owassipee. This one's pretty nice. So Camp Frank Betts is another camp in the Pathway to Adventure Council, and it comes up later on. Actually, in the Indiana series, it's in I forget what council, but anyway, we'll see more of Camp Betts later on. So as I mentioned, when we were at Arrowhead Council, Camp Drake, Prairie Lands Council, same camp. This is one of my favorites here, the Legend of Pollywog Man. I think a camp can't go wrong to have a legendary Pollywog Man. And this is Rainbow Council, the Rainbow Scout Reservation, RSR. I like this one too. This is a nice looking patch. All right, Three Fires. They've been pretty prolific with their camp patches and practically all their patches for that matter. So the first camp I'm going to talk about with them is Camp Freeland Leslie. And typically they would put out a regular patch, a staff patch, and a camp leader patch. But a lot of times they just put out a regular and staff. They don't always put out the leader patch. Again, more from Camp Freeland Leslie. The Three Musketeers, or not Three Musketeers, the Robin Hood action going on here. That's pretty cool. This one's got the camp leader in this set. So a few years ago, they put out another set of Camp Big Timber. And Camp Big Timber is also hosting a conclave this year. And for a while, they just made one for all the camps, and they just called it summer camps. So I have several of those as well. Actually, a lot of these predate my actually collecting these as a side collection. I used to collect just CSBs and just acquired these along the way. And then when I did start camp CSBs, I shuffled over into the other binders. These are their Cub camps. I actually had these and I actually traded one away because I didn't realize this was a theme for a Cub camp one year. And I ended up getting another one. I'd get one back because somebody had informed me that that's in fact what those were. So I had to scramble to get it back. And there's the Pirates of the Caribbean. That's pretty cool. Or Caribbean, sorry. And this is WD Boys Council. We're still in Illinois. Camp Hefferman and Ingersoll Scout Reservation. And the Michigan. This first one is Silver Trail Scout Reservation. And then Northwood Scout Reservation for Chief Akimos. The first one's Blue Water Council. You read it there.
It's Okemos.
I'm sorry, what?
It's Okemos.
Okay.
My wife went to Okemos Junior High School.
Oh, well, thank you. Okay, so for Detroit, this little symbol here is for their camp D-Bar A, and all their Trail to Eagle is probably Eagle Week at the camp. So these are probably different patrols or different troops. And as you can see, they put out lots of them. And this one's great. This one's got just a D-D-Bar A here. And I don't know whether these weird new ones are replacing these, but this patch didn't come out as pink as it really is. It's not as red as it looks. It's mostly pink. And this was a Port Powderhorn course at the D-Bar A. And then this is just summer camp staff for Detroit area. All right. I kind of wish there was a camp name on this one because I really like this patch, but there's not, but I still like it. So normally I shy away from patches that don't have the camp name, but my collection, I can make exceptions. Well, that's not the Great Lakes Council. That's a Great Sauk Trail. I will fix that. Keep Camp Tetonka. These bottom ones are all exactly the same as this one. They're just ghosted. It's an endowment campaign. I don't know what I was thinking there. This is one of my favorite camp names, Camp Chief Little Turtle. I like that. Nice patch, but better camp name. Actually, I kind of like this camp name too, Old Ben. It reminds me of Old Yeller. But this is Buffalo Trace. We might have somebody here from Buffalo Trace.
Yep.
Yep.
Old Ben was a coal mine.
Okay. Well, that's
And
interesting.
They got it from the coal company
Okay.
and lost it in the bankruptcy.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that. But anyway, that's a cool patch and I like it. Well, here we go. Calumet Council has Frank Betts. This is actually a very interesting shape for a patch. I really like it. I assume this is the camp logo maybe, or maybe somebody just got artistic, but I like this patch a lot. It's one of my favorites. And obviously this one actually has a Calumet. All right, Crossroads of America. They got a few camps actually. They have Camp Belzer. I don't know who this guy is, but I like him. And then Camp Kick the Wenund. That rolls right off the tongue. And Ransburg Scout Reservation and Camp Crichtonstein. And then this one here, actually, if you look at it, it has all of them, plus a couple that I don't actually have separate patches for, like Bear Creek and Red Wing. But these are, I like the clean design on these. All right, LaSalle, Camp Tobenemy, or Tobeneby, Camp Tamarack and Rice Woods. And you can see some of these are part of a numbered set. These three, I thought there was one more, but maybe not. So this one predates my collection as well. I had this before I started collecting camp shoulder patches. I definitely would not collect this now, but since I don't have anything else from Northern Indiana, I figured I might as well throw it in there. Camp Buffalo, that's a cool name. I like that. Sagamore Council. All right, this is Seven Ranges. They have some very cool patches, and there's a nice set on the next slide. But it's Buckeye, it's Ohio, and it's Buckeye Council, and they have a different design most years. And well, one year I can't remember what year it was, but these three here was a legendary summer. So they have the Loch Ness Monster, Mothman, and Bigfoot. So I actually contacted the council and I bought a dozen of these things. I've been giving them out to the kids at camp. They love them. Everybody loves Bigfoot. And then this was a Weeblows resident camp. If you're a Star Trek fan, you got to love these. Beam us up, Akela. And looks like a little bit of one of the gods from Mount Olympus here. So this one doesn't mention the camp, but Pipestone is a camp program. And I actually have a couple other ones that have this logo on them. So they're in the collection, but they only just barely fit because of this logo here. And these are some more there. This is another one here. All right, Dan Beard, Camp Friedlander. Still in Ohio. And then Erie Shores. It's a good looking patch. We got a daytime scene and a nighttime scene, and then a ghosted one, all the same. And then it's hard to see on this one, but it says Camp Frontier down here. And then this set came with a centerpiece, and I didn't go to the. I didn't have when I first got these. I didn't take a picture of them all together with the centerpiece. So I have the centerpiece. I just don't have a picture of it. But this is kind of an anniversary set. All right, Erie Shore some more. Camp Mayakonda. And this one here, it's got the logo. It doesn't have the name on it, but it's got the logo. Same with this one. A little more obvious on this one, though. All right, great trail. These are all the same here, just different borders. This is probably my favorite one. You know, I like cartoon characters, so Bullwinkle goes a long way. But this is Camp Manitowoc. And they have last year they started a new series, and I'll get to that in just a second. There's a couple of staff ones here, those are nice. I also have Camp Butler. I don't have a lot of Camp Butler. This one's both. There's Bullwinkle again, or just some random moose that they hired. So this is the new series they put out. You see it says 1920s here, 1930s, and they made one for every decade. I mean, they're releasing them one at a time, so they're not all out yet. But I have a trading friend who, when he gets them, he gets one for me as well. Oops. There's the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and 90s. I don't have an 80s one. I'm gonna have to see if he can get me one of those. They're pretty nice though. Nice designs all around. This one actually has Camp Butler. All right. Beaumont Scout Reservation, Camp Greater Cleveland Council. I like most patches that have a little something sticking out of the top or the bottom or the side. So I like these. And then Great Western Reserve Council, Camp Stigwandish. Again, that sounds like one that I could butcher pretty easy, so I apologize if I did. Heart of Ohio Firelands Scout Reservation, FSR. And they started doing these are getting pretty popular, I think, but not my favorite look myself. Okay, Lake Erie. And this is also Firelands. All right, Miami Valley. So this is Woodland Trails. And this is the camp they have now, but this camp used to be called Cricket Holler. And I have some old camp patches. I have one from the last year of Cricket Holler, and then the following year was the first year of Woodland Trail. So it's either the same camp or they got a new camp and they closed the old one. And this was a retro one here for Cricket Holler. Cricket Holler actually closed back, maybe even in the 50s, but the 60s for sure. All right, Muskingum Valley Scout Reservation and Camp Zane. And this was also and you can see the MVSR for the camp. And see it's during COVID when Bigfoot's wearing a mask. Although Loch Ness Monster there isn't wearing one. I guess maybe he's staying isolated. This is an interesting patch because this is Fireland Scout Reservation, and they put this out during a merger, but before they had a new name for the council. So it's kind of called the Northeast Ohio Scouting, and then they ended up coming up with the name. I think it might have been one of the ones I passed on before. All right, Scioto Area Council, Camp Oyo. We're going to see a lot more of Camp Oyo from Simon Kenton, which is probably coming up next. It's the Blockhouse, the Spirit of Camp Oyo. All right, so Simon Kenton, you know, people talk about the Patch of the Month Club. These guys are the Patch of the Minute Club. And when they first started, for summer camp, they just put out these generic summer camp patches, but then they quickly started putting them out for each of their camps. So this is the Chief Logan Scout Reservation. These two are actually the same, just this one's mostly ghosted. And this is Camp Falling Rock. These pieces here are 3D. They made the patch and then they put these on afterwards, kind of attach them. I think the panther here is their lodge totem. This is Camp Lazarus. Also Camp Lazarus. And here's Camp Boyle I was mentioning. Some of their FOS patches, if you can see it here, it's got Camp Boyle ghosted. Some of their other ones have their other camps, but they're ghosted, but they don't really come across very well with the scan. So I may have I left a few of them out. This one's nice. All right, Tecumseh Council. This is my favorite patch from them. Most of their patches are nice. You know, they have nice little forest scenes and a lot of greenery. But this is the only patch I have in my entire collection that has a skunk on it. So this one's in the top 20. Home of the Birch Cat. So each one of these are different, but each one represents a set of 5 or 6 patches with different border colors and an OA flap. So each one of these was the green border version of some set. Same with these. Picked a different border color on this one just to give you a little contrast. All right, Toledo area, Pioneer Scout Reservation, which was also in Erie Trails, probably a little later. And then Western Reserve. I kind of like this little thing here. Chickagami, the camp on the lake. That's pretty cool. All right, into Kentucky, Wildcat Hollow Reservation for Audubon Council. It's the only one I have for Audubon. So Bluegrass, also, I don't know why I have Pioneer on there. I think I copied it over from the previous page and I just forgot to delete that. I apologize. This is Camp McKee, or the Alumni Association calls it Camp McGee Scout Reservation. Or they call it Camp McGee, I'm sorry. All right, Lincoln Heritage. I got pretty lucky with this group because I trade with a guy from Kentucky, or I think he actually lives in Tennessee, and he's the camp director for one of their camps. So he's able to get these camp staff once for me. Camp Crooked Creek. Sometimes you just see the CCC. I don't believe that's the Civilian Conservation Corps. It's probably the camp. But this one's numbered. The other two are not. So it's funny, the first time I saw this patch, and I got that before I got these others, I couldn't figure out why a Kentucky council was hawking 10 Mile River. Then I realized it's not. It's Tunnel Mill Reservation. Eventually I got this and suddenly it made sense. And these two again are the same. My next presentation will have a great deal of 10 Mile River. This one, I guess, is pretty hard to get. The camp ambassador, and the guy I trade with, he's the scout. He's the camp director for Pfeffer Scout Reservation. So as you can see, I've got the camp staff for the last couple of years, which is how long I've been trading with him. If there was stuff before that, I didn't know him. But yeah, I like the design on these. You know, it's kind of the same year to year. I still like it. All right, Shawnee Trails Council, Camp Royce, Manchester. I like this one, like bold colors, and this one really pops.
Shawnee Trails and Audubon have now been absorbed into Lincoln Heritage.
Oh, okay.
The
Funny. I think he mentioned that they have Camp Roy Manchester. So
yeah,
so
they have Manchester. They sold the other one.
Okay, so that makes sense. And that's the end. Woo!